Thanks, Bill. And Bill told you what OBIE is, Oracle Business Intelligence Enterprise Edition, and let's not speak of that anymore. So it's just OB from here on out. So, but what we're here to talk about today is Primavera's P6 Analytics. I'm Scott Major. Again, Nathan Sloan's here with us too. So he's going to be doing the technology side. You're going to see that. I'm going to try to talk about it more from an end user's perspective. So before we get into it, one thing I was going to say, I'm a huge soccer fan. I'm not sure if anyone else is watching the World Cup right now. I watch it all the time, not just at the World Cup. But one thing I'm just interested in soccer, there's not a whole lot of stats out there usually. It used to be like goals or whether you got a yellow card or a red card. But now when I'm like the FIFA website and there's data everywhere out there. And that's indicative of the age that we live in now. There is just data all over the place and what you do with it. And there's data on there for how fast people are going. Some guy was going 30-something kilometers an hour. So it was just interesting to see all this data, but it's like, what do you do with all that? Businesses have all kinds of data coming in from Primavera, from financials, from all these different places. So that's why you're seeing the big push to the big data. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's trying to do it. I'm not sure how successful everybody is, but these are some of the tools that can take some of that big data and put it into useful things that you can actually make decisions about that actually help you as far as business decisions go. So thanks and welcome to our Breakfast and Bagels, our Bagels in Business. And again, today we're talking about Primavera's P6 Analytics. So here's a little bit of a rundown of what we're going to try to go through today. Beyond the agenda, I think we're going to try to go pretty quick, so maybe we can finish before 9. So if you have some questions beyond just a Q&A, if you want to see something, hopefully we get done in time so you guys can ask some of those questions as well. But today we're going to talk about some of the assumptions. These are assumptions about the audience that is here and is viewing this perhaps. We'll talk about the who, what, and the why of P6 Analytics. I've got frequently asked questions broken up into the pre-demonstration and post-demonstration because there's probably a lot of them, and hopefully we can hit some of those at the proper time. We're going to do a technology overview that Nathan is really going to hit for us, and he's going to answer all your technology questions. We're going to go through a demonstration, actually create one simple report, and then kind of go through some of the other sample dashboards that are available to you. And then we're going to go do a post-demonstration frequently asked questions too. So after you've had a little bit of an opportunity to see what the tool is and what it does, maybe you can answer a few more of those questions that you might have. And then at the end, we're going to have an open session for questions and maybe a little more demonstration if you have any questions. So, all right, so our assumptions are, we assume that you have some familiarity with Primavera P6 and the type of data that it contains. So I think a lot of you, I've seen a lot of you, so I know a lot of you do have that experience with Primavera. And obviously, if you haven't, it's a scheduling tool. So think Gantt chart, think a lot of start, finish date type stuff, earned value type information. We assume you have some experience with reporting capabilities that exist in Primavera, and not necessarily in Primavera, but that you work with some reporting system that gives you information about the tool or that you're using. We also assume you are familiar with the concept of a data warehouse and why you would want to use that. And then we are assuming that you're interested in exploring analytics. So analytics is beyond reporting. It's using that data to create some informed business decisions that you're going to use. So, all right, so what does Primavera's P6 Analytics mean? I wanted to define what analytics mean, and I went into several dictionaries, and I didn't like any of the answers except for I actually went to Wikipedia and liked theirs, and it kind of fit for what we're talking about. But it's the discovery and communication of meaningful patterns in data. So let's also compare that against what Oracle says it is, which is a lengthy definition, but it's a packaged business intelligence solutions that provides valuable insights into your projects and portfolios in Primavera P6 Enterprise Portfolio Management, so you can uncover trends and identify issues before they escalate, helping you to make better informed decisions. So I think some of the key words I would pull out of there are insights. It's going to give you stuff that you would not normally be able to get. Also, it's going to uncover trends and identify issues too. So again, it's geared to try to help you do some of those things. And then, as we've always said, it's all about trying to make better, more informed decisions. Okay, so Primavera actually defines this whole process of analytics as taking data from Primavera P6 and a structured set of data. Think about this if you're on the IT side, if you're familiar with that, this is coming out of more of the reporting tables. But when it gets into P6 Analytics, it's actually developed into analyses, and in those analyses, it's going to go into these trends and pattern analysis. It's grouped in a certain way, and then in the end, it's presented actionable information. So you take those reports, you turn them into the dashboards and the KPIs or the scorecards that actually mean something to you. So who uses Primavera P6 Analytics? You have executives and management. How often have you seen something about a mission statement or something along the lines of a business that you thought was a very good mission statement, but you have no idea how to quantify it? Well, lots of times that's because your business processes don't lead you to be able to get the answers to those. And that's what it's set to is, if you have a mission statement that's quantifiable and something that P6 can answer for you, then this tool is set up to try to help you do that. For a project management office, their key objectives typically revolve monitoring, trying to look for those high and low performers so they can help those out and identify those. And then identify some problems that would help you do some root cause analysis too. There's going to be some pretty interesting drill down opportunities you'll see in these reports. It's going to help you really kind of delve down and peel back those layers of the onion. Also, project managers and team members, what is affecting my project? All project managers want to know that. They want to be putting their time where it's the best value. What projects need my attention the most? And then what projects are adequately supported? So from a resource level, do I have the right resources on it, and do I have the right level of resources available? Also, from kind of the same thing for a resource and a functional manager too, this is not geared towards just Primavera. So if you do have project managers, project controllers putting that data in, you should be able to query that and be able to understand where your resources are at, where your deficiencies are at, where you're over-allocated, those kinds of things. All right, so why use Primavera's P6 Analytics? Just so you know, you can go out and Google this, and Oracle's got answers. Every website's got answers. This is just my list of why I thought it's very important for us to understand what P6 Analytics does. First of all, it utilizes industry best practice. Out of the box, it comes with, I think, 80 prepackaged reports geared towards Primavera type reports that you would use. Several of them are very generic, but they're still useful, and some of them are industry specific. So before you even start, they've got a lot of reports that are going to be geared towards, helping you solve everyday solutions. You may have to, there are some required coding that you may not be doing in Primavera, but as everything is in Primavera P6 Analytics, it's editable, it's customizable, you can make it fit your needs. The other one is it's enterprise reporting with EPPM security. So at the project level, security that goes into analytics is the same project security that you have in your EPPM environment. Next on there is the ad hoc report writing capabilities. Has anybody, just show of hands, who uses the report writer in the Primavera tool, the desktop tool? If you've used it, a few of you have. If you have, it's kind of a cumbersome tool sometimes, especially to learn it initially. It's not like that. It's geared to be ad hoc. You're supposed to be able to basically just run in, understand the data, and be able to pull in data. So if you have any experience report writing, it should seem very user-friendly to you. Also, you'll be able to download reports and analyses to Excel and other formats. There is a plugin, so it works with Microsoft Excel and other tools that come from Microsoft. So it works seamlessly with those. It works as an export function. Also, as I talked about briefly, you have the quickly drill down from high-level detail to low-level detail. So if you want to start at a project level, go down to a WBS level, go down to an activity level, you have those options, and it drills down. It's set up to do that for you. And then also I talked about managing resource efficiencies. Again, I think that's key. You have a lot of the tools that are available to you to be able to manage those. And then also analyze historical data to uncover trends and patterns. This one is very cool, and I think this is one of the huge selling features of P6 Analytics is how it does historical data. So a lot of people have tried to put data warehouses in place because P6 does not necessarily do stored data, or sorry, I should say snapshot data. It does do stored data, but it is limited in what it keeps. Whereas P6 Analytics really expands that for what's stored, and it can store it all the way up to a daily basis if you want to. Obviously, your database is going to get pretty big. We've used try to keep a daily record of everything that happened, but you have that option to you. All right, so some of the pre-demonstration frequently asked questions that we have. How is P6 Analytics different from Oracle Project Analytics? Quick show of hands, have anybody heard Oracle Project Analytics? So that's another tool, and I think it's probably more prevalent so far. But essentially, it's the same idea. It's got what I call an ETL. What is the ETL? That means extract, transform, and load. It's a process that is part of the whole OBIE platform in P6 Analytics. And also, the only difference is really it just works for Primavera. So you have that same business intelligence publisher environment, but it's for Primavera data only. Can I use other BI tools for P6 Analytics? So if you do have a business intelligence option already put in place for Primavera, it's not going to work with P6 Analytics. It does have to work specifically with OBIE. Does the installation type of Primavera matter? It does, and you have to be working in a Primavera P6 EPPM environment. Also, I think it's version 6.2 and after. Honestly, I'm not sure if before 7 actually really works. Last one on there before we get into a few other, the demonstration is how are permissions handled in P6 Analytics? And we kind of already touched on this already. It is project level security. There is another level of permissions that I'll talk about when we get in the tool, but as far as accessing project level data, that's supposed to map what your EPPM environment is talking about. All right, this is the part where we're going to go to Nathan, and I'll turn it over to him. But as we kind of transition, I know he gets in, can you all spitball a few things and maybe some shortcomings you guys think of your report writing tools or what you've seen in Primavera so far? Maybe a couple, 2 or 3, and I'll see if I can maybe hit on those. If not, we'll talk about them ad hoc.
Okay, well, my name is Nathan Sloan. I'm a system architect here at Management Solutions. My initial disclaimer is I'm not really a good public speaker. Usually my type, they keep locked in the closet with the lock on the outside of the door, so please bear with me on that. What I'm going to do is just give you an overview should I put this on because I'm going to be pacing, another downside to my type. There we go. I'm going to be giving you a brief overview of how all this hooks together and hopefully a little bit of what's required. If you have any questions, blurt them out. That'll probably make me relax a little bit more. First on the list is we have licensing. And the first item is the per seat versus per processor. Now, this is important when you're trying to scale out your system. And it affects your cost too because it's absorbent and when you get to the per processor. But the per seat means you can have so many users on the system at any given time. For example, Scott and myself, if we both use it at the same time, that's 2 seats. So you need to calculate how many you have, give yourself some room to grow, things like that. The second option is per processor. Now, the difference is several thousands of dollars. But the per processor is tied to the hardware. So if you have a machine with 2 processors, you need a 2 processor license. The benefit of this is you can have unlimited users, unlimited seats. And the per processor license, if I remember correctly, without any discounts or anything, was like $220,000. So I'll take 10% and we'll be okay. The second option is name seats replaces concurrent users. In the past, Oracle's licensing has been concurrent users. I know this was a big shock to most of the contract management people. We're not talking about that today, but so if you had 16 people in an organization with 5 license, any 5 could be online at any given time. Well, they switched that out to named seats. So now you have to say Scott has a license, Nathan has a license, and they made a lot more money that way. So that's good. The associated costs, I'm going to assume that you already have the EPPM structure for P6. PPM will not work, unfortunately. Call Scott to convert that up. And you will next need the reporting data warehouse. Now, this is where it machinates the data, to use a Tyson term over there, and keeps it all stored for you. And we'll go over that in a little bit more detail in a second. And that's going to cost you $25,000 without discounts. That's just right off their price sheets. It doesn't matter about your users or license. It's a schema that goes in the database and the transforming processes. The next is the OB. We said we won't use that anymore, but OB, Oracle Business Intelligence Enterprise Edition, and that's about $2,000 per name seats. There are minimums associated with that, and we can talk about that later if you want. So it's quite costly. And then P6 Analytics is also $2,000 per name seat. So skill sets required for deployment. The general knowledge of the environment, and by the environment I mean, for example, this building. What's your network look like? Do you have enough bandwidth available on your network to host it? Just general, environment questions. The next is the knowledge of the chosen operating system. You've got a Windows environment. If you've got Linux, the person who's installing it needs to know those pretty well. I've installed this several times now, and none of them have gone perfectly. So you need to know that. General knowledge of the Oracle database. OBIEE always plugs into the Oracle database. You can use Microsoft through the Gateway tool, but you do need the knowledge of the database. You have to set up the database and make sure it runs properly. And then Java. Now, the Java is probably more important than everything else on the list. To scale your system properly, you'll need to know how much RAM you need to put in it, and all that other kind of stuff. And you would think that that's pretty straightforward. If you get the documents, what they instruct you to install is the minimums. So if you've got 100 users, you're going to have some problems. And the general knowledge of the Oracle platform security. Scott kind of touched on this a little bit. It does transfer passwords and things like that over the networks. So you need to have an idea of what you're exposing if you're leaving the building. For example, if you've got Site A with a database and Site B with OBIE, you need to be able to secure the link between them. The left picture here represents the Oracle Red Stack. Now, what the Oracle Red Stack is, over the past 15 years, Oracle has acquired pretty much everything they need to fill an IT department. And then they changed the licensing on it to charge you more for it. So what this is a lot of companies are religious to the red stack. So what I'm going to try to demonstrate is how it kind of plugs in straight with that. Again, you don't have to use an Oracle database. You can use a Microsoft SQL server. It's better if you do. It's cheaper if you do. But we're going to focus on Oracle today. And these are kind of the associated projects or the software package we'll be using. I color-coded these, and I'll explain that a second. I thought I was being clever, but they changed it, so I changed it back. The blue represents the Oracle database. And then, of course, we know what that is. The one under it's the Primavera P6 EPPM. That's, what your database is. And then the reporting database, which is the star schema, which is where it computes all that. Now, these are all blue because they all require Oracle database. The yellow one is Oracle WebLogic. What that is a application platform. So it's kind of like IIS, or it's a web server. It's a glorified web server. We'll just leave it at that. And everything else will sit on top of that. So when we start looking at OB, Oracle BI, it requires that and that. So blue and yellow make green. See, I thought I was being clever. So, it doesn't go with the rest of the slides. That's why they changed it on me, but I changed it back just a minute ago. Oracle Business Intelligence runs on top of WebLogic. It also connects to the Oracle database. And the BI Publisher is part of the intelligence package. It also runs on WebLogic and also connects to the database. And then Analytics, same thing, so on and so forth. Now this cool slide is a representation of how the data flows through the system. You first have your EPPM database. And then there's a service called Publication Service. It's also called the Arbiter, if any of you have ever heard of that before. And that fills the extended schema. Now, the extended schema is the reason why you need an EPPM. You don't need, the PPM doesn't work in that because it doesn't contain the extended schema. And what the extended schema is, so in your EPPM database, you have your basic normalized data. You've got your project names, their IDs, and, for example, a total cost on the project. And then an extended schema will have your spread data, the calculated fields, across, 42 years or however long your schedule goes. And then you've got these other processes. Well, the ETL is extract, transform, load. It's essentially a batch file that runs a program that calculates all the data and squishes it together and puts it. The ODS stands for the Operational Data Store. Now, I put that on there. It's kind of obsolete, but I left it on there because if you're running anything above or before 8, you're going to need that guy. It comes with the Reporting Services package, so fear not. I can't promise you that it works for PPM, though, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't. So, but it's on there. You'll need that if you're running anything before 8. And then down here, the star ETL. Now, the star database is kind of unique in that it's actually dimensional data. And by that, I mean, whereas your other one had your project ID, your project name, and its total cost, the third dimension that it adds to that, a dimension could be time, for example. It could be your cost in 2002 was 28 million. Your cost in 2003 was 28 million. Your cost in 2004 was 32 million. Whereas this stores kind of like what it is, this stores what it was and what it is. So there's all kinds of different dimensions you can add to that. And then these guys right here represent the server, the OBIE server. You got the business publisher up here, which pulls from the ODS or the extended schema. Now it's interesting, just as a test, I had a report and ran it on publisher, and then I changed the connection string to connect to the, instead of the ODS to the extended schema, same results, switch it back, same results. So they're kind of interchangeable. They're almost exactly the same. We're not going to go over the differences though. And then the desktop user here connects through a web browser to both of these. So that's kind of how that works and how to do on time. Is there any questions or you want to ask later? Or?
We'll have more time for that.
Yeah.
Get your microphone thing.
Oh.
So if The only thing you understood that Nathan said was that blue and yellow make green. You're not alone, and
That's why it was worth it.
and that's why I'm back up here to try to help you with that. So no, I think it was very important for us to give both sides of that because I think we have both sides of that in our audience, and you do need to have an appreciation for this detail.
Well, one thing, sorry,
go ahead.
one thing I do need to interject is this is an enterprise installation, meaning if you just throw it together as quickly as possible, you're going to run into problems in the long run. By enterprise, you really need to think it out, think how many users are going to come through, and really plan this guy out because you may get it to work immediately, and you'll be happy with it, it'll be awesome, and then you'll come in next week and it won't work, and then you'll be cursing everybody, including me. So just take an extra step and plan that out before you get started.
All right. Thank you, Nathan. All right, so let's move on. So now we're going to try to get into some of the demonstration stuff, and I'm going to do a simple one today, and so before I do that, I want to give you a little bit of a background of what it is we're going to do before we get there. So basic terms and relationships in here. We start out with an analysis. So when you hear analysis, think of query. That's probably the best way of doing it. So you may or may not write a query or may not have ever in your life, but that's essentially how there are access to data tables or data sources, and you're pulling that together to get the data that you actually want. The other part of that is results. And when you hear results, think more of an actual report itself. So I'm actually dropping fields into a report so you can actually see what it's going to look like. The other part of this is a prompt. So a prompt is basically making this report customizable. So you have parameters, you have filters, other things that you can actually use to tailor to the fits of your needs. Lastly, we have a dashboard page, and this can be as big or as small as you want it to. The dashboard page basically takes the analysis and the prompts and puts it together all on one page. It can be mini reports, it can be mini prompts, however you want to do it. It can have many pages on it as well. But it covers, again, everything that you kind of need in one place and everything that kind of makes sense all in one place. So in an example, you might want to have an earned value dashboard. It might have all the earned value metrics that you want to look at. It might have many different reports on there, all driven by those same prompts. All right. So I talked about data tables or data sources, and this is what is unique to P6 Analytics. These are those data tables. In one version, I had done this, and I don't have it now, but everything where you see history, see activity history, project history, resource assignments history. Those are the three data sources that are unique to this P6 Analytics. That's the slicing of data if you want to look at it day by day type analysis. So you can still access the period performance data in P6 Analytics, but you can also get day by day data in there as well. So I have not created this, but my understanding is this kind of lends itself to doing some of the things like a Format 5 report that is obviously kind of a key report that's hard to get out of Primavera, but something that might be available to you if you use P6 Analytics. So those are unique to P6 Analytics. A lot of the other reports are, activity history, activities, activity user defined fields, resource assignments. These are all things that you're probably aware of. They've got a lot of data fields in there that you can actually use, but you're probably familiar with those data tables more so than the others. Burn down is one that's kind of new as well. I have not seen the application for it yet out here. If you're doing manufacturing, basically it's kind of a burn down or a countdown kind of analysis of how you'd want to look at things. The other one on there is work planning, and this one I haven't really delved in too much. I've looked at it. I kind of wonder if they could expand on it a little bit more from what I have seen, but what it does, it seems to offer you kind of a forensics view of dates and things like that change. So you can go back and see how things have changed. So if you do forensics analysis type scheduling or just a forensics approach to any of your project controls, this would be a good table to see how dates have changed, how activities have changed, and those kinds of things. So that's kind of an overview. These are the only data tables that are available to you, but they're massive. They have lots of data in there, and we'll talk to you about, we'll look at a few of those to see what the structure looks like. So this should actually take us into our demonstration. All right, I've actually gone ahead and pulled this up. But what I would do, so it's actually signed in as Nathan, but the first thing it's going to do is prompt you for a sign-in. Your sign-in is going to be the exact same as whatever you use in your EPPM environment. There are several things. I'll kind of back up real quick and tell you what some things that you might want to configure in your EPPM environment before you get there. If you have messed around with user access and permissions, you note there is a P6 Analytics box per user. So if you want them to have access to that, you actually have to check that. I talked about the history that is involved in analytics as well. If you want to do that, that's actually set up on a project-by-project basis and an activity-by-activity basis if you want to change that to daily or however you want to toggle that. So there are several configurations that you need to set up in your EPPM environment for it to work correctly or however you want it to work once you get into P6 Analytics. The other thing I'm going to say as a caveat too, and it's a little bit unfortunate, is because of a space and time constraint, we did not load the maps portion, which I'm not sure that's really going to help out, but it's a really cool demonstration because you can see how everything comes across a large organization that might be across multiple countries. But we don't have that loaded. And also, I don't have any of the time data loaded too because this is a quick install that we did too. So we don't really have the ability to slice through some of those history data tables. But I'll at least show you the structure of what those look like. So we'll actually do that first. This is the home page. So as soon as you sign in, you see it. It's kind of like a dashboard itself. It's got all your recent reports. It's got the most popular ones that everyone else is using. And then on the left side there, you can see you can just kind of get started real quick with some of the introductory data as well as create whatever it is you want to. There are a lot of different things in here in OBIE that you can use. I know there's one called agents in here. There's scorecards. There's key performance indicators. There's an analysis. All these things, but we're going to keep it pretty simple just to show some of the reporting capabilities this morning. Along the top there, you see home, which is the pages you're on. You have the catalog, which is, I'll show you here in a second. Basically, that is your reporting table, your table structure for all the data that you create. Your favorites, obviously, are your favorites that you actually pin to that. And then dashboards, so you can actually have a quick link for all the dashboards that you set up. Probably aren't many already set up yet. Well, there are a few that you can quickly pull up and start using. That way you don't have to go through the catalog and try to find them every time. New is what we're getting ready to go to, and then open helps you find some of the things that are on there as well. So if you do new, and I want to go ahead and show you this one. So the subject area is going to be the very first thing that pops up. And those are the ones we talked about in that last PowerPoint slide. You can see Primavera activities, activity history, all the way down to, you see the burn down there, and all the ones we talked about. So even though I know I don't have any data in the history, I want to just run through one real quick so you can kind of see what the fields are that are available, because again, I think this is kind of one of the cool features there. So we're looking at project history. There is one again for resource assignments, and there is also one that's available for you activities as well. So most every table is going to have a time component to it, and you can see the fields that are available. You can do it by calendar or by fiscal period. You should have day, year, month, all those different type options if waiting for it to expand. The other tables on there you can see, or the other folders in there you can see are your EPS, so all your EPS structure that you have in there. You have the WBS, which has all of its structure in there, portfolios as well, and the same thing for all your general project information, project name, project description, all those things. So in each one of these data sources, you're probably going to have a fact table. If Nathan wasn't here, I'd make him explain this one, but the fact is kind of like, rather than a traditional sense of databases, it's more of a cube environment, so there is a time element that comes along with it, so think three-dimensional rather than two-dimensional. But you can see those are the fields that you can really see at a project level. You can look at them by time. So if you want to see what my cost was this month, or even by day, you can pull that by the day of the week in that first report up there, and then you can also look at it last month or the month before that. So you can see how things are changing over time, and it's giving you that the snapshot capability, and you can continue to look back that way. So,
is it trended or is it just a snapshot?
it should trend it, to be honest with you.
A line or?
Yeah. Well, I'll talk a little bit more about that too. So the data the raw data will come in as just a snapshot data. You'll have columnar data, but you can do a lot of things with it if you want to. Okay. So the first one I decided to do was just do a quick resource assignment, and out of the box, what we're going to try to do is just go ahead and create one. And we talked about the subject areas, and we're going to do a resource assignment report here. So the first thing I want to do is just go ahead and drop in a portfolio name, and this may mean something to you, it may not, but in this case, I think it had like construction projects, information technology projects. You'll see all that. So as it runs, you see that. So instantly you have data. Just so you know too, we have this on one of our slower servers, so it actually refreshes rather quickly when you have it in a normal operating environment. But so you should have immediate satisfaction as soon as you drop a field in there, however you want to look at the data. So the things where, some things that you might be interested in looking at. Let's bring in project ID. So under the general table, you can see even under project, look at all this different data. I mean, all the stuff that you're familiar with seeing, like budget data and stuff that's all available to you there, it's all in there. And then also, in addition to that, you might want to know, let's say we're doing some resource reports. So obviously, I think one thing you're going to want to know is you're going to want to know a resource name that's going to come along with it. And then another thing there too, let's just bring in calendar year to see how things are changing over the year. Sorry, there's a little bit of a glare over there. And then also let's bring in month name too, so we can see how things are changing over a month. And then the key feature we're going to talk about is this, so if this is a useful report to you, you might want to look at what are your planning units. So we're going to look at that too. So we go into our units. Again, saw that you had units, you had cost, and I think, what was the other? You had metrics, so you can get counts and things like that that are on there as well. So planning units. So all of a sudden, to me, I think this kind of becomes somewhat of a useful report in that you're looking by your portfolio, by project, by resource, what you plan for someone. So that's actually going to run for quite a while because that's a lot of data. So what I'll probably go back in here and do is trim this actually back to where we're only looking at one portfolio. So actually, sorry, it did run. Let's just say inside of, and this is the quick way, is we want to quickly filter the data. You just go into the field itself, filter it, and then let's say we're interested in construction project only. What I like here is I'm not writing in code. I'm doing everything by clicks and visually. I mean, if you wanted to get into the coding, you can actually do that. You can convert it to SQL, and you can get in here most all the opportunities you want to try to replace it if you prefer to do that. But immediately that should make the results a little bit easier to work with, and you see that you're dealing with all your construction projects. You see it kind of also pivots all the data, kind of the way you'd see it in a pivot table in the sense that you got it all grouped on that portfolio name, also grouped on the project ID and project name, and then you see all the people here that we're looking at as well. So you've already got somewhat of a spread table that's fairly useful to you. Let's say you also want to take this same data and actually just kind of filter it down to, let's say, the electricians and the excavator. I don't know why you would want to look at those two things together, but I'm sure there's a contractor out there who specializes in both of those. There you go. Exactly. Okay, so let's see what the data looks like. So we've sliced it and diced it. We've brought it down to just those two. We kind of see what the data looks like. So let's also look at this. Okay, so we have a raw table. There are different ways we can slice and dice the data. So you talked about trending and how do you really take that data and make it something more meaningful. Well, that's where all these other views come into play. So right now, and naturally, by default, you populate everything into a table environment or tabular environment. You also have the options of putting it in actually a true pivot table. You have the performance tile. You have a trellis, which is it's a visual. You have graphs, gauges, funnels, the map, which again I talked about how the feature is not loaded, but it's pretty cool to see how it loads it out on an interactive map. And then you have filters, and there's some other views to look at as well. But I'm going to look at just drop this into a pie chart. I'm just kind of curious to see how this all falls out by project. So as it renders, it kind of knows what data should go into the pie chart. That's why it's already, you see these as prompts, and it's not muddying the data in the graph itself. So if I want to use my pie slices as project name, that'd probably be a good one. Let's actually swap these two. All right, so it should go back and render, and then I can see by portfolio, I can start to see, portfolio probably was not the good one to use, actually I should have brought project in there. Let me go back up here at the top. Again, I like how everything is drag and drop here too, so if you have a screen that's adequately sized for you, it actually goes pretty quick. But as you can see, I'm having some problems. Let's just move the screen off a little bit there. Okay. Okay. So it will render, and I should get me something about what my plan units look by project. Sorry, I think I've pulled in my project name. Bear with me for 1 second. If it's not going to work, I'm going to give up on here in a second. Okay, it's not pulling in the ID the way I want it to, but as you bring it in there, you should be able to see and slice and dice your data to the different projects that it has. You can see visuals quickly, and then also it adds it all up here too as parameters, all those other fields. So if I did want to change the date, all the different things that are available to me, it's all out there. You can do that, and you can want to look at it by electrician, or if you wanted to toggle that to another one, you have all those drop downs that are available to you as parameters as well. So you kind of see that as pie charts on there too. So before you bring any of these views in here too, you actually have to do a little drop arrow. Let me save that. And so you can compile all these different views that take the data. You can trend it the way you want to. You can put it on a graph. You can put it in a pie chart and drop all these into your own singular report. And that way you have all this to drag into a dashboard if you'd like as well. So, okay, what if we want to do something where we want to identify some overallocation? We see a whole lot of plan units on there, but that really doesn't mean anything to us yet. Let's see if we can add some indicators to that as well. So, going back into the plan units, I'm going to look at my column properties. And you have lots of options on here. You can change the style. You can make it look however you want to. Change the font if that means something to you. You can change the format. It's defaulted to units, I guess, right now. You could change that to something else if you want to, or to currency, however you want to. But let's do some conditional format. And let's look at when my plan units are, let's just say over 160. So if I know over in a given month, if it's over 160, that means I need more than probably an FTE that's available to me. So I've identified that. I'll just give it an image. It'll give me a yellow caution flag that says, okay, I know I need to have more than one FTE at that point. So again, that's kind of meaningful data at that point. So with that conditional format, I go back over to my results and I can see, okay, on that given project, I know my electricians and my excavators are going to need more than a given resources on there. So there's all kinds of different functionality that you can use to make that more useful to you. But let's go ahead. Let's prep this for how it actually is going to go on a dashboard. This is a report. You could run this if you want to, but it's not customizable. It's set to what I already put as those filters that are on there as well. So first of all, we want to save this, and I'm just going to save this to find me a good place. How about the temp? And we'll call that today report. Okay, so now we want to actually use this report, put it on a dashboard. The next thing we have to do, if you recall back to that slide, was create a prompt that goes with it. So that prompt is going to be what eventually becomes basically our parameter that's associated with it. And we're going to go out of the exact same resource assignment data source table. And let's say before you get into this, one of the prompts that you want to do is, rather than hard coding it in there to the portfolio that I had on there, let's just say that portfolio name is what I want the user to be able to check on there. So I'll add that on there. You can set up defaults. You can have it work with other parameters if you want to. A lot of different options you can do on the parameters itself, but it's as easy as that, just to set up a parameter. And then I can save that. Let's put it in the same place. And we'll just call that today prompt. So the prompt is now available. Now let's go back into the report and prep it for actually seeing where that customizable portfolio is at. So well, in true build it as you go fashion, it looks like I've not saved my initial report. So I'll go back in and grab that one real quick. Actually, you know what, and for sake of going on, we'll talk about that. But essentially what you do is you take that prompt with the report that you built and you put them all into one dashboard. I don't need to show you that process because we're getting ready to go in and show you some of the other dashboards. You'll see how it all works together. A couple other things I want to highlight before we go into that is that when you get on here for new, we talked about analysis. Those are the data sources. Those are the reports where you pull data from. We talked about dashboards. That's where you put your reports. That's where you put your prompts together to work together. You can filter data if you want to. You see that on there as well. You can add conditions to your data. One of the ones I want to show you real quick too also is a report job. So if you have a report that you really like that's very helpful to you and you don't want to go log in here every time or you want it to go to certain people, you can set up report jobs that will actually do that for you. So you find the report that you're interested in, and you just grab any report that you want to.
Now, does this auto feed the dashboard, or are you creating static reports and pasting them to the dashboard?
You do actually customize everything. You drop the dashboards in there that you want to.
So it never auto feeds back into your data?
What do you mean auto feeds back into your data?
Meaning that it looks like you have to manually go in and create the report
Yes.
and then attach it to your dashboard.
Right.
Almost like an image.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. And you could do multiples of that as well. So once you actually bring that in there too, pick any report you want to. If you have parameters, you can go ahead and predefine what those are going to be as well. In your outputs, you can identify layouts, time zones, those kinds of things, and then you can schedule it for how often you want it to send to someone as well. So, and you have triggers, and the one thing I didn't show you there was add destination. This could be an email, this could be a folder, however it is that you actually want to deliver the data. Okay, so let's say, and I think there was on the new, there was also data model. I want to show you that as well. So as that pulls up too, the key thing I wanted to show you in this is that you can bring in other data sources that aren't necessarily associated with Primavera, and it can be many things. And these are all the different things that you can pull in. And I like the fact that you can even all the way go down to a CSV file or Microsoft Excel file too. So lots of different data sources. That's again leveraging what is a data warehouse at that point. So, all right, let's go into an actual dashboard that we might want to use. So from the shared folders, these are the Primavera reports I talked about. So when I said there were 80-something reports out there, reports and dashboards that are available to you, these are those reports that are available to you. So as we get down there to it, I'm just going to go into some of the additional samples here. And then one of the first ones I want to show you is CPI, KPI. But kind of just take a look there. You can see all the different good reports that are available to you. You see cost progress, trending, earned value type stuff. But this will kind of show off to what a KPI looks like for you. So if you wanted to have this report sent to you, you could easily have that set up where it's sent to you on a daily basis, and it can give you kind of all your key performance indicators. It should be no problem. One thing I also want to point out too is that with these, you have the ability to refresh, print, export, and then there's other functions depending on the reports that you have. But as you export it, it's set up to do it by PDF, Excel, PowerPoint, and then if you want a CSV file, a flat file for other, if you want this to feed some other type of data source, it's all available to it as well. But this is a good way for you to basically see by portfolio, what your key performance indicators are based on CPI. And you can see the reds and the yellows, so it's got the green light effect too. So let's go back. Let's look at project earned value. That's usually near and dear to a lot of folks' heart. And the data source is not very, this is using sample data, so it's not very dynamic. But you can see how it uses CPI and SPI and trends that over time.
So is it calculating it there, or is it pulling up a
It's pulling it.
previously calculated chart, and then you have to hit refresh to get a new one?
Yeah, it's all calculated. The only reason there's animation involved with it too, and that's why it looks like it tries to process. So what it usually does is it starts as a flat line, and then it ends up to being whatever your trend looks like. But yeah, it's all pre-compiled. Good question. Okay, let's look at another one of our dashboards here, and there's actually a true earned value dashboard. And you can see this is a full build out for what a dashboard is actually going to look like. It's going to have multiple pages on it. That's what you see up here on the top. These different tabs are the different pages. And then on the left, you see all these different parameters. So these can affect every page that you have on there. Say you want to break it down to 1 year, you want to break it down to 1 fiscal period, or the project that you want to look at specifically. But you can see how a lot of these different charts work together. You want to look at it on a graph view, you want to look at it on a table view or a pivot table, that's available to you as well. Within the dashboards itself too, you can toggle views from graphs to whatever it is you want to bring it back to a table. But you can see there's a lot of cool data in here too, and it's got EAC, it's got earned value. There was one on here, I can't remember where it was at, it actually kind of looked very similar to a Format 1 report, so if you'd seen that, there's a lot of comparable data. This one's getting you your earned value, actual value, planned value as well too. So these are a lot of the different dashboards that are available to you, and there is one feature that I have not seen on this dashboard that I wanted to show you. There is a briefing book that comes along with this. So let's go back to the catalog real quick and pull up a different report here. So the other thing too is if you don't like any of this, here's the briefing book I talk about. you can take all of these reports that are the canned ones that they gave you, and they are editable, so you can make them whatever you want to, because a lot of these are going to be geared on some codes and some things that not everybody uses. But if you want to go back in there and toggle those off and make it fit your needs, it's all customizable to do that, so that you can use all these canned reports. But if you want to build everything from scratch, that's completely available as well to you. So I clicked on Add Briefing Book. This is a quick way to do some snapshot data for reports or like PDFs or data that you just want to store. Again, like I said, everything is available historically, but if you do want to put it in a PDF format and you want to put it somewhere where someone who doesn't want to deal with P6 Analytics, put it all in one file, then that's an option to you as well. So it is updatable or snapshot. So if it's updatable, what that means is every time I open the briefing book, it's going to update and refresh that data, that PDF data. If it's a snapshot data, it's going to append one to another. So every day you'll see how it will continue to build. And you'll see the format of the report here in just 1 second. So it's snapshot, and let me give it a quick location. I'll put it back in that temp, and we'll just call it BB for BB Untitled. That works. And it will run and give us a PDF that shows us basically that briefing book that will give us some updatable or snapshot data, in this case snapshot. But that's going to be that same graph that you see right here. Everything I have built on that page, on that data, will be accessible to me. So let's just go back and open it real quick. In my folders and temp, we created I thought we had a briefing book put in there. I think I'm running into some save issues here today, so I apologize for that. The briefing book opens up, basically you get a chart, and if it is that snapshot type data, it gives you a date entry, and then the second page will be the graph itself. And if you build on it and then you append a data source or a report to it, it will be the next page itself too. So that's just one of the cool features I thought, if you want to pull this out as a PDF and be able to pull this out of OBIE, but actually document it for your own purposes as well. So that is pretty much it for the demo that we had planned for today. While I've got this open, do you guys have any questions as far as demonstrations or things that you might be interested to know about P6 Analytics? Or even for Nathan's part too, I'll bring him in as well to answer anything.
Sorry, I was hiding.
If not, we still have a few. Let's go back in the slides. This might get you geared towards thinking that way. So let's jump back into the post-demo frequently asked questions. So does P6 web interface already have dashboards and reports? Yes, but the dashboards have limited capabilities. So if you've worked in, and actually, to be honest with you, I should also include the standalone version of Primavera 2. It's got a much better report writer than the web does. But as you've seen in this report, they're still lacking a lot of stuff that P6 Analytics has. It doesn't have the data warehouse capabilities for history and all that ad hoc type reporting. All those, the joins and things like that you would normally have a programmer do are already done for you. It's all pre-compiled. So how is historical data stored? We touched on this already as well. You have your period data that you store natively in Primavera. It's already there, but it's also got this snapshot history that's available too that you can set up to be on at least on a daily interval if you want to. What is the state of the current date in P6 Analytics? So to get for data from P6 EPPM to P6 Analytics, it goes through two main processes. Nathan, you can correct me if you disagree on any of these. But data goes through the ETL process from the extended schema. It's published first through the arbiter we talked about, getting into the extended schema, and then going from the extended schema into analytics, it goes through the ETL process. So keep that in mind that you've got two processes that it has to go through, and that defines what live data is going to be. Those are customizable processes. You can run them probably as frequently as you want to. Depends on how big your data source is for how often you probably should do that.
Well, they actually run you can set the publishing settings up to where it will only process changed data, which I think by default you can schedule it to run every 2 minutes. And DTL, there's a way you can manually run that, or you can schedule it every month or every hour or something like that. So you can actually get it fairly close to real time.
All right, can other sources be combined with P6? And I think we answered that question too. So you had the option to go out there through other data sources, and you could even go in and grab flat file data and combine it in there. So that really kind of leverages what you think of when in a data warehouse, you have all this data go into one place, and if you want to report out through it all in one place, you do have to set all that up. So that is our presentation for today. Again, at the end, after this, we'll still open it up for questions and any demo you want to see. That's my contact information and Nathan's. So I appreciate it. Nathan, do you have any other closing comments that you want to add?
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I'm going to put business cards in the back. Yes, oh.
Hey,
What's up with
yes,
questions?
I'm a pretty simple-minded person, and, you know, that goes without saying probably, but why, as a portfolio manager, program manager, would I want to, or business owner, what's the key takeaway from this, and why would I want to invest my resources in
Yeah.
this?
I think we could both answer some of that. I think part of it is the constraints that exist within Primavera and the reporting capabilities. A lot of the stuff that is reporting in Primavera is really geared towards more project-centric type reports. This gives you the ability to go beyond that and get you more of a portfolio analysis, more of an enterprise-wide type analysis as well. Also, you see a lot of the reports and stuff that are in there, the scorecards, the KPIs, these are stuff that just aren't natively available to you in Primavera. And then also it gives you that data warehouse. So we talked about the history. And we talked about how if you want this to be a true data warehouse and you want to blend it with your own homegrown financial system or something like that, it's capable of putting all that together. So that's the piece that would you add anything else?
If you needed custom reports, I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with that. It can be a headache trying to dig through the data and all that. This is kind of a shortcut to that too. A lot of times you need little one-off things like when will this project be done and what did it look like over the past 10 years? Little things like that can be real time consuming for developers to create out of a custom script or SSRS. This is a shortcut for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and there was a graph I'd seen at one point where they had stacked everything about development and creating the report and all the time that it builds to actually get you to that actionable information. And one of the big things that shrunk is that all this stuff is already built theoretically in OBIE. You just have to configure it all.
Yeah, and ad hoc reports are amazing.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing.
Scott, I give this to as a point, and maybe folks will resonate with this, that P6 in general is an extremely deep tool inside the schedule itself. So there's a lot that you can do, and unfortunately, sometimes that means your scheduler is the most knowledgeable person on your project about what's actually going on. This tool's about reaching inside of P6, getting everything that person's done to try to coordinate your project and surfacing it for anybody else that's involved. So really what it does is it exposes that data in a way that's really through a website as opposed to P6 itself, and kind of, I guess, levels the playing field so you can get that data out. And it can even be delivered via PDF, the way that Scott's shown. It can be graphed, it can be simplified, it can come down to red, yellow, blue, or excuse me, red, yellow, green, in terms of the stoplight chart for a manager to be able to make decisions off of this. So it's about taking the knowledge kind of out of the hands of the scheduler, letting them be the sort of pinch point, and surfacing it to your entire organization through a tool like this.
And to expand on that just a little bit, I think he demonstrated that, but you can also schedule certain reports to be in your inbox in your email every morning. So you want to see what happened yesterday, bam, there it is, and that's more capability that takes time to develop.
Now, could that give a report, say you had 3 projects, similar projects with tenant fit-ups, industrial building, and you want to check your plan costs of metal studs, drywall, acoustical ceiling, and you had 3 projects, and you had planned and actuals, can that extract that from all 3 projects, put it in a report in a nice, concise manner so you can evaluate where you are, where you might have lost time,
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's where it excels, is it's got all that enterprise type information right at your fingertips. So I talked about those data sources. We talked about the activity resource assignments, and I talked about some of those history tables. You guys all remember that? You can pull those together. So it doesn't have to be just one report on resource assignments. I should have said that earlier. You can pull resource assignments, and if you want to put that together with activity or any of those data sources, you can pull out all that together so you can combine the data there as well. So, question?
We talked all historical. Is there kind of a projection capability to this, or forecasting, or so you have a project that's going along, this is what you've been doing, this is the trend, and this is what it looks like over the next 6 months?
Yeah, at the heart of it, it's not going to create anything new. So all the data that is going to be pulled in is going to be data you've already done in Primavera. So you should be able to do all that in Primavera, so it should all be reportable. I hope that answers, does that answer the question?
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
Take that extrapolation.
Yeah.
Report it.
Yes.
Yeah, you could do that with your KPIs, and you can set up alerts. So, whoa, this project's going way over budget, and then it can email the appropriate people to expand on his answer.
Yeah.
It also does magic.
You can shift to the price tag. How does Primavera translate the database permissions and security built into the exportable reports?
Oh, I before I answer.
Well, I was just gonna say it just does it, but
Remember the magic we talked about? No, the ETL process for the star schema actually goes through and it takes the permissions that you've set up. Like in the EPPM web portal, you can go in and you can set up new users and all that. One of the global scheduled service is the security service, and so it comes over through that channel.
So any business or any data sources that have access controls built around them would be translated to the reports that are generated?
Exactly. If I don't have permission to see a project, I can't see the project. I mean, it's whatever you can see in P6, as long as you have the analytics module checked, you can see in there. If you can't see it in P6, you can't see it in there.
But that's a good point to bring up too, because that's talking about the data, the project data, and all that stuff that comes from P6. If you want to do another level of permissions within analytics, that's also available. So if I don't want you to see that report, or I just want to do it for myself, then you can actually go in here with the permissions and assign them as well. So you can see how it's already set up to Nathan in this case. So reports, everything you build in analytics, you set the permissions up in analytics. All the project data, all the information that comes out of the ETL, that's all set up through your EPPM environment. Any other? All right, well, I'll stick around for a few more minutes. I think Nathan will as well. So if you want, ask any individual questions or any individual demos, let us know. But we appreciate you guys coming. I think we have a survey too, so if you guys could fill that out and maybe drop that off before you leave, we would really appreciate it. But all in all, thanks again for coming. Chris, did you have one thing?
Back here, if anybody wants me to run their credit card.
All right, thanks again.